It's a very, very sad holiday season for the billionaires in the world. Crying emoji. They've apparently lost a lot of money this last year. And so, golly gee, what will they do with less billions? Let's find out. Forbes is really concerned. They wrote this: it's been a bad year to be a billionaire, and not just for those who blew up their businesses or got themselves arrested. Well, sure enough, that is somewhat true, as you'll see in the facts here. The ones who got arrested, it's been a really bad year, but for the rest, I think they're gonna be okay. But let's give you the details. As a group, the planet's billionaires have lost $1.9 trillion in 2022, according to Forbes estimates, with their collective wealth dropping 13.8 trillion on New Year's Day to 11.9 trillion on December 9th. My God, you're telling me 2,500 people only have $11.9 trillion right now? But somebody get them food and water, shelter, whatever else they need, these poor billionaires. All right, we'll talk about why in a second. For example, look, the US has suffered the most because guess why? We have the most billionaires. China the second most because they have the second most billionaires. This is unsurprising. Then Russia, of course, with the sanctions got hurt. Their billionaires, they didn't get hurt. The billionaires got hurt. Of course, the real people got hurt way worse. We'll get to that a little bit later too. Germany, because of the war situation, also having problems, but this is worldwide. Now, tech's been hit the hardest. So poor Mark Zuckerberg is now some $78 billion poorer this year as shares of Facebook parent Meta Platforms have fallen by 66%. By the way, that is a bit of a tough break. I mean, losing 2/3 of the value of Facebook. Ouch. It's gotta hurt the big guy. But don't worry, in virtual reality, he's still just as rich. In fact, he's twice as rich. It's virtual, what difference does it make? All right, and by the way, I mean, even when he loses $78 billion in 1 year, he still has so much money that he and 12 generations of Zuckerbergs couldn't possibly spend it in all their lifetimes. All right, but now let's go to Bezos, poor Jeff. Shares of Amazon have cratered by nearly 50%, helping knock more than $80 billion off of founder Jeff Bezos' net worth. Google parent Alphabet stock is down 36%, lopping more than $40 billion apiece from the fortunes of co-founders Larry Page and Sergey Brin. But who is the biggest loser of all in 2022? Good question. Correct answer. You're not gonna be surprised. Elon Musk. So the biggest loser of 2022 by far is Elon Musk, as Forbes explains, who has shed more than $115 billion of his wealth in 2022. He began the year the planet's richest person by a huge margin, some $70 billion ahead of French luxury goods kingpin Bernard Arnault. But the French kingpin is now on top. He's the richest man in the world. Elon is crying into the rest of his billions, having lost the top spot. Guys, all of these trillions of dollars in losses affects their personal lives 0%, okay? They still have so much money. There's no way in the world they could spend it. There is one very dramatic thing that it affects though, their ego. And so their ego has been deeply bruised. So there's going to be more wealth inequality to enforce upon the rest of us soon, I'm sure, usually by the government officials that they have purchased. I'm gonna get into that in a second. But speaking of the rest of us, let's find out how we're doing.
The coronavirus pandemic has also become an inequality pandemic. Never before have we seen such a simultaneous increase in the gulf between the haves and the have-nots around the world. The virus has exposed, fed off, and increased existing inequalities of wealth, gender, and race. Hundreds of millions of people are being forced into poverty, while the richest, both individuals and corporations, are getting even richer thanks to soaring stock prices.
I've been in the healthcare industry, nursing aid, in-home aid. I've been in fast food, McDonald's, Burger King, Waffle House.
But none of those jobs have paid enough for her to have her own place. To survive, Ishani lives with her mother and her son, who was born premature.
See, now Ishani needs help. Folks around the world need help. The very last thing we need is sympathy for people who lost money that they really can't even keep track of and don't even use and is irrelevant to their actual material lives. Now, by the way, of course, remember that they got a lot of these gains during the pandemic. The very, very wealthy did. And tech stocks had shot up because everybody was staying indoors. But not just the tech sector, lots of sectors went up, and government handed out tons and tons of money, not just to individuals, but more importantly to giant corporations. So off of government largesse and some of their own doing, obviously, they had grown to be spectacularly wealthy, and there was no check on any of it by the US government or by a lot of other governments, but particularly the US government, because instead of saying, well, okay, you guys are doing fantastic, but others are deeply, deeply suffering, and we should focus on that suffering and try to help alleviate it through many different things, government programs like paid family leave, child tax credit, etc. We did none of those things, and we left the poor and the middle class to fend for themselves. And instead of doing increased taxes on the wealthy, since they're doing okay overall, especially in the 2 years where they're piling in all this money before they lost a small percentage of it this year, or in some cases you saw there a sizable percentage. What they could have done is increase taxes on those folks and at least gotten help to the people who actually desperately need it. But we cut taxes instead during the Trump era. We have not put back any of those taxes under Biden. He said he would. He's done absolutely nothing to do that. So bottom line is, as much as they have lost in theoretical digits on a bank account, in the real world, in their material lives, they have lost absolutely nothing as the rest of us continue to suffer.